All right, so we're recording again. My name is Luke Angstadt. This is my podcast, Knowledge Wars. I'm the author of the book, The Musings of De La Pew. It's a 20-year investigation into the nature of reality, the nature of existence, God, human beings, the relationship between all of them. It can be purchased on Amazon. You can find the details in the description page for this video on YouTube and Rumble to my book. There'll be links to Amazon. I'm here again with some recurring guests that have been on here. Bob's been on for, I think, upwards of 10 to 12 times, and Danielle's been here for maybe 3 or 4 times now. But just to bring our audience up to speed, yesterday we began a conversation on dealing with the Bible and maybe specific, and not just specifically deception in the Bible, but I mean more to the point. Maybe that's not misleading, but I mean, to be more specific, is that oftentimes in the Bible and these newer translations that have been coming out since the early part of the 20th century, there are crucial words in the text that have been either altered or substituted for different words that lead to profound differences in interpretations. And it's very difficult to get a clear idea as to how to interpret crucial passages in the Bible if you're using if you have multiple translations of the Bible. If you have like an NIV here, a King James version here, maybe the New American Standard Edition, and if you're trying to cross-reference them, when you come across a part that is a bit confusing. And specifically, we were getting into this with Danielle yesterday, who's done a lot of research on this. Just the ones that we were touching on yesterday in the beginning of our conversation was the difference between the words Nephilim, the Elohim words. I mean, I think Elohim is plural for gods, and Nephilim is for giants. And we're kind of getting into the book of Genesis, where it's talking about when the sons of God came down and made it with the earthlings, and we're talking about it can be a very uncomfortable reading in the book of Genesis, where it certainly sounds like there was an extraterrestrial race that came down and made it with the terrestrial beings, those being human beings on planet Earth here. And that story is told in I think it's chapter 3, either chapter 3 or chapter 6. It's either chapter 3 or chapter 6 of Genesis. My memory's a little shoddy. Danielle, is it chapter 6 or is it chapter 3?
I believe it's Genesis chapter 6.
I think you're right too. I think it's the beginning of chapter 6 where I'm thinking chapter 3 is where they say, let us create man as one of us, create him in our image, using the plural.
I'm pretty sure.
Once the humans eat from the tree of knowledge of good and evil, then they become as gods and they will live forever. So yeah, it is in chapter 6 where it gets a bit confusing, because you're like, what is going on here? And I know Danielle held up a notebook at the beginning of our call yesterday, mentioning that there's no way I'll be able to get through all of this today. And I said, don't even try to, because I'd love to take our time with this, because I think it's a great conversation to have over the course of several shows here. So I guess with no more prelude, Danielle, if you want to go from here.
Sure. Yeah, I mean, there's a ton of stuff. Just to recap what you said, even down to like talking about the days of the week and where they come from and stuff like that. But I'm not going to go there yet. Just to recap on the Elohim. What I left out the other day was that what it says is that it's actually an ancient Hebrew, Phoenician, or phonetic language. So I left that out. So that's where Elohim comes from. And the imperfections that's in the King James Bible are a little bit misleading. So it really says, in the beginning of creation, Elohim created the heavens and the earth. So El is the Phoenician Canaanite word for deity. And then Ohim, like I said the other day, is like adding an S in place to make it plural. So deities or gods. So I didn't take too much notes down for the Nephilim, but from what I remember on the Nephilim, I just brought it up because when I was going through the whole process of like, oh crap, what is going on here? There are all these words, like when I started pulling, it's like I opened up a can of worms going into the concordance. I was like, oh crap. So L.A. Marzulli, he is, I don't know if you've heard of him, Bob.
I have not.
He is a Christian-based, I want to say he was even a pastor. He goes all around and he explores the whole Nephilim thing. So his take on the Nephilim is that their fallen angels came down here, and whether it was genetically modifying or they literally had sex with women, created this race of beings, which would be the Nephilim. And my understanding with the word Nephilim is, I think it means to fall. Correct me if I'm wrong, Bob, because I didn't take notes on that.
That would be Luke that would correct you, not me.
That's what I meant, Luke. Correct me if I'm wrong. I think it's also loosely translated as giants. So in my opinion, because if these angels had some type of relations with women, genetically or sex, because angels are completely different than women, they would create giants, literal giants. Now, there have been, you can look this up online, although it's getting a little bit more scarce and scarce anymore, but you can find like large giant skeletons that they have dug up and stuff like that. So
I've seen that
there
many,
is of actual giants.
Mhm.
So that was the road I was on, agreeing with L.A. Marzulli, so I can stay in my little happy bubble.
Mhm.
As I went on, I started noticing more things and stuff. So with the Elohim I don't know if I'm pronouncing it right either, but I noticed that there could be some more things going on here, maybe other entities, and that's not actual, creator of the whole universe. You know what I mean? So let's see. We were talking about we went
And then
through
you mentioned the Italian researcher hired by the Vatican that kind of corroborated
Yes.
a lot of the research that Zechariah Sitchin did with the ancient aliens, ancient astronauts, whether they're interdimensional beings or extraterrestrials. But there is a mountain of evidence to support that. What sounds on the face of it, an out of this world wild theory or conjecture, it's really not. I mean, the more research you do, you realize that, wow, something's going on here, right? And we're not being told.
and I even have some notes from his lecture with Jordan, that he said he thinks that well, he's on the take that there were many gods that came here and that genetically modified the human race. That was his take on it. He said they genetically modified maybe like the hominid or whatever actual being that was here already. And then there's some esoteric people who think that they trap the human soul into these beings that they created.
Mhm.
So the soul, in what I feel, is what is created by the source of all. So we are made in the source of all's image, and I'm just saying source of all because I don't want to get confusing talking about gods and God and stuff like that. But so there's so many different takes on it, but his whole point of it, after finding that these beings came here, he honestly believes they're extraterrestrials, which we don't know a lot about space except what's fed to us, right? So I always had the idea, and I have no proof to back it up, but I think everything's interdimensional, because I honestly, I'm leaning on the side of we possibly live in a simulation. So
I'm pretty much convinced we are too. Yeah.
yeah.
Mhm.
So with that, I think, and I'm gonna throw this out there, and any of your listeners are gonna be like, this girl is whacked, but whatever. I've seen it myself several times. I have seen, and I use an app that lets me know where aircraft is, because we do have an airport near here, because I live in Monroe.
Mhm.
And we've actually seen UAPs, UFOs, whatever they're calling them today. And they're fast. They look like a ball of light, and it's not a shooting star, because I see those all the time too.
Mhm.
So there is something out there. Whether it's an angel, a demon, ET or whatever, that there's something there. And I honestly believe they go through dimensions, because I
I do
actually
too. Yeah, I do too. And I
open
actually had
up
an
and they go
experience.
through.
I had an
Yep.
experience with the little grays when I was a kid. I had two little gray. I met two little
Me
grays when I
too.
was a kid in the summer. In a summer, I was about 8 or 9 years old, and I remember just having my window open late at night and waking up, and I don't know what time it was, but I looked to my closet and I saw, you know, I saw one a little way. He was crouched down by my closet door, and then I looked to the window, and I saw one coming into the window, and I made eye contact with both of them. And I remember the one looking at me that was coming in the window. I looked at him, he looked at me. You know, we recognized each other, and then he just he went out the window again. And then after he went out the window, I looked at the one over crouching by my closet, and he looked at me, and then he just scurried out the window too. And then when I looked out my window, I remember seeing the spaceship. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. And
That's-
I wasn't scared. I even as a kid, I wasn't afraid of them. And
I was gonna,
they probably sensed that. And maybe that's why they left me alone. Yeah, because I wasn't afraid.
they didn't feed off the fear. That's
Yeah.
why.
Yeah.
I have something to share with you on that too, but Bob texted me and he said that his screen froze and no sound, and I don't even see him up on the thing. And
He popped off. I don't know if he's able to come back on or not. If he goes if he clicks on the email link, he should be able to get back on the call.
email link. I'm telling him right now.
Yeah, if he just clicks on the link in the email.
All right, so I told him that. Yeah, so I recently had so I haven't had, I used to get sleep paralysis, which is an excellent topic for future podcasts if you want.
Mhm.
And to make a long story short, I hadn't had one in years. You know, I combated it with Christ and it went away. But I had an actual being come in, and I was reading a book on that this lady had, and she had like different races of extraterrestrials, but I didn't read that until 2 months later. So keep that in mind.
Mhm.
And saw this being, it tried to do the whole paralysis thing on me. It was on my husband's side of the bed. So I think it was there for him. And I broke out of the paralysis because it doesn't work on me anymore. and I'm looking at it, I'm like, what the hell is that? What the hell is that?
Mhm.
And my husband's not waking up. And I'm like, what the hell is that? And he's still not waking up. And I'm like, looking at the thing like, get the heck out of here, you know? It looked like a reptilian-like creature, but it was about 4 or 5, I would say 4 feet high. And it had a cloak on. I mean, it was something to see from Star Wars, you know?
Mhm.
So I'm like, that was really weird, but I wasn't scared. And it appeared because I wasn't scared.
Mhm.
And they feed off that fear. Well, here is a negative entity. In her book, I found the exact picture of it.
Wow.
Exact picture of it.
Wow.
Yeah, I'll send you a screenshot and text it to you. I was like, okay, that's just that. I don't believe in coincidences. So
Mhm.
anyway, so I can't deny it. There's other life out there.
No doubt about it. And to your earlier point about frequencies, I mean, yes, we live in there are parallel universes, and there's probably a number approaching infinity of universes. And right now, I think what we're seeing right now is we are seeing other frequencies of existence kind of bleeding into our reality and almost superimposing themselves and sitting down upon our reality. But I mean, you can feel it's like on a radio dial, like if you have two stations that are close together and you hear interference or static between the radio stations. So Bob's coming back in. Let me bring him in.
Okay,
But
great.
it's the same principle, like on a radio. When if two frequencies get close, there's interference. You hear static, and right now, you know, one other parallel universe is encroaching on, or not even encroaching, but there is another parallel universe that is almost is all well, it already has. It's already started the process of absorbing our reality and assimilating our reality, our version of reality, our frequency of reality into its reality. And that's because that's what AI is. I mean, AI, there's nothing humans didn't create AI. I mean, AI is its own reality. It's a frequency of reality, and it is absorbing our reality right now. It's absorbing us is what it's doing. And yeah.
It sounds like I made something good here.
Hey, we were talking about aliens.
Uh,
And now we're talking about AI and the
Oh, yeah, the AI, I mean, yeah, the AI is crazy in my opinion.
And the more
Well,
rapidly
AI
the
in a
more
way is like an
oh,
alien.
go ahead. Yeah, I was going to say the more
No,
rapidly this
yeah.
process of this absorption of our reality, the assimilation of our reality with this other frequency that is pretty much superimposing itself on our frequency of reality. We're fast approaching a point where people can't deny it anymore. I mean, they know something is. I mean, they can feel it. They know something's happening. They realize that they are being manipulated, even if they just know it subconsciously. But we're fast approaching a point where people won't be able to deny it anymore. I mean, denial has its limits. So
I agree.
we're on a frontier of some kind. But yeah.
Yeah, and then whether people call them demons, angels, I mean, I think, that, whether it's extraterrestrial, interdimensional, I think there are good and bad entities. Okay. If somebody wants to label them angels, somebody wants to label them demons, whatever works for them. Either they're out there. I've seen beings of light and I've seen beings of darkness. So, you can't deny it. They're showing themselves a lot more now. So
Especially in movies. I mean, movies and TV is where they really, that's where they show you what they're doing.
predictive
They try,
programming.
but it's under
Yep.
the auspices of it's imagination and it's all imagination and fantasy and make believe and ha ha ha. The comedic the comedic effect is put in movies just at the right moment to release the tension and maximize the fear and terror. But they're showing us what they're doing with movies and TV. Yeah.
Yep. And they're really smart about it too, because with what Mario was finding is that a lot of this stuff is being hidden, like with the biblical texts, for example, because they don't want us to know just how powerful we are. This even said that we are like gods. Okay. So that means because we are a piece, each one of us this is what I truly believe deep down. Each one of us, our spirits, not this meat suit that we're wearing, our spirits, our souls are a piece of the Father. Okay. So that means we are fractals of God out here doing our human existence. Okay. We are experiencing and all that stuff. And we are trying to be the best people we can be, showing love and all that stuff. And they don't want us to know how powerful we are. And basically we're like a battery for them. So when they start putting all that fear frequency out, we like play into it. Well, now we're sending all that energy that they want, that negative energy, and it's basically creating the reality that we're in.
Well, it absolutely does. It does. It reinforces it too. Yeah.
Exactly. And fear lowers the immune system too. So it's not healthy either. But so, yeah, so what he was saying is that they don't want us to know how powerful they are. He even brought up when Yahweh and two individuals that seem to be shown as angels in Genesis, and they come to Abraham and Sarah. And so what he pointed out now, because later on it's something that's said in Genesis that makes you go, oh, that was Yahweh. On they
you have that passage in front of you, because I remember it. I remember it, Danielle.
Yeah, I wish
it's okay. Oh, that's all right.
I could probably pull it up on my phone. But I could tell you this, they were on their way to Sodom and Gomorrah. Okay. And we had mentioned Sodom and Gomorrah yesterday because we believe it was definitely hit with nuclear. So keep the Elohim in mind. All of a sudden, this Yahweh guy shows up, which I think he's still connected with the Elohim. Now, a lot of people are going to get upset with me on that because there's a lot of people that believe Yahweh is the one true God. I'm not convinced yet that he is. I'm more convinced in the God that Jesus talks about in the New Testament, which he does not give a name. He never calls him Yahweh. You know what I mean? But they come and Abraham insists, because that was the custom for them to come and eat and drink with him. And they're like, oh, no, we got to go, and he's like, no, I insist. So they sit with him. But the two guys, they leave to head off to Sodom and Gomorrah, and Yahweh stays back with him. What's interesting is Yahweh is supposed to be God. And as you see God portrayed, like by some of the prophets and things like that, you wouldn't think he would be sitting there eating with them, right?
No.
So
no.
there he is, he's eating with them, and
Tells
and
you
all
that he's corporal, he's a fleshly being, right? He's a
right,
spiritual
right.
being, yeah.
Yeah, so I found that interesting. So I just wanted to bring that up. The ark, he also talked about the Ark of the Covenant, and I know I'm kind of bouncing around here, but I just thought this was interesting because of talking about the nuclear thing. So do you remember, Bob, you might remember this from scriptures too, where like there was a set of people that were the only ones allowed to touch it, and they had to wear certain garbs, okay, and ones that had touched it that weren't in, specific people that were allowed to, they were basically thrown from it, like jolt, right? So he believes that the Ark of Covenant is a weapon. He believes it's a tool that contain energy. Only certain people could use it, the Leviticans, and he believes actually that it's in Ethiopia, which I thought that was interesting. But he didn't give any kind of proof with that.
Most
Throw that out
researchers in the
there.
Ark of the Covenant do believe it's in Ethiopia. I mean, Graham Hancock wrote a book about the Ark of the Covenant back in the early 1990s, and it was his conclusion too, among many other researchers, that it is in Ethiopia. I mean, they have festivals during the year to the Ark of the Covenant, among other things. But yeah,
That would make
for your point
sense.
about it being a weapon, is that it's a there when that guy stumbled with David, when I think it was with David, and they were marching through the desert or wherever they were, and the one guy stumbled and touched it, and he was killed instantly. I mean, he was electrocuted, right? Because
Yeah.
it's a computer. It's a superconductor. I mean, it's inlaid with gold. I mean, obviously, gold is a great conductor. And I do believe. I mean, to your point, whether it was a weapon, I'm not. I mean, I don't know enough to speak one way or the other on that point. But I do know that it was a container that had electricity. There was some kind of electricity going on. So they had electricity back then, is what I'm saying, at the very least.
And the was it cherubim that they put on it was interesting, because it kind of reminds you of Egyptian like figures. So Isis is
the
depicted.
cherubim on the top? You mean like the cherubim on the top of on the lid?
Yeah, it was a cherubim or seraphim on the top.
Mhm.
Yeah, they just remind you of Egyptian figures. So like you have Isis depicted with the wings on her arms. Then you have the what is that thing called? It looks like a lion, which that's an interesting piece, because that actually gets into theology. The Sphinx in Egypt. Yes, that's a whole other thing. All the astrotheology that's all throughout the Bible too. The other thing is with Moses, and I'll throw you a funny that Jordan says he was the first person that ever broke the law.
That's a good one.
That's so stupid, but it's so cute. Anyway, when he would go up, he would always come back with his face glowing, right? And people would say that was the glory of God, because he's seen God, he was in the presence of God. And the other things you would notice that he would follow them in a cloud, which is interesting. Now, ET have been known to cloak themselves like clouds, okay, in the ET community. So, it looked like we were starting to get a countdown. I probably should get on topic.
Looks like they were at 10 minutes, yeah.
So he, it is believed that the reason why his face was glowing was there was some type of radioactive that could have been coming off of maybe the ship that the entity that he was talking to, whether it was really God or ET. So I find that interesting. Again, I don't really have any proof to back that up. I just find it interesting. Ezekiel, though, if you go to Ezekiel, there's a lot of stuff, and I'll get for next time. I'll get more.
The first chapter is describing a spaceship.
Yeah.
It's
I think
describing a primitive human
Ezekiel
being.
1.
Yeah, using the vocabulary of his day, describing a spaceship, but he
The
doesn't have adequate, he doesn't have
swishing,
he doesn't have adequate vocabulary to describe it. But if you read between the lines, that's what he's describing. Yeah.
It sounds just like a spaceship. So, I don't know.
Where is that? I want to look that up. Where is that?
That's the first chapter of Ezekiel, Bob.
Yeah.
It's an amazing read.
Ezekiel 1.
All right.
Yeah, it's the entire first chapter. Yeah.
So you know how
some of the most amazing descriptive language in the Bible is that Ezekiel chapter 1. I mean, that'll blow you away. Yeah.
It's one of my favorite books. So I'll throw this in there since I mentioned astrotheology. What's interesting is with Moses and all, remember when he came down the mountain, when he broke the law, because they were worshiping a golden calf. Okay. Well, it is said, because there's a lot of astrotheology in the Bible, the golden calf represented Taurus. So they were in the age of Taurus, but they just came out of the age of Taurus, and they're supposed to be Aries. So that would be like sheep and stuff like that, or the ram. Okay. And so he was angry because here they're worshiping a golden calf and they're not in the age of Taurus anymore. So if you go into ancient cultures, you see all these different bulls being depicted in art and things like that as the age of Taurus. And if anybody's interested in astrotheology stuff, Micah Dank is a good one to listen to. Jordan Maxwell only touched little bits of it. Santos Bonacci. The only problem with him is he's very long-winded and hard. It doesn't keep my attention, but he's really knowledgeable. Yeah, so I don't want to, give me 2 minutes.
Oh, sure. Yeah, we're still at 7 minutes. Yeah.
So I'm sorry, I'm bouncing all over the place today.
All right.
I wanted to point out the whole astrotheology thing and how it's wrapped around a lot of stuff that we even use today. And also it falls into paganistic stuff that we follow. So Sunday is actually for the sun, okay? Monday is moon. Tuesday is Mars, which is Aries, okay? Wednesday is Mercury, which is Hermes. He's the guy that's depicted with the staff and the two snakes that wrap around it. And there's a lot of meaning with that, but that's a whole other rabbit hole. Talking about the Anunnaki, like we were with Zechariah Stitchin and stuff, he can be depicted as Enki, okay? There's two brothers, Enlil and Enki. I have a theory that Yahweh may be Enlil. Be curious to what your opinion is, Luke.
Albert would have a lot to say about Enlil and Enki.
Would he?
First time I ever heard those names was from Albert probably a year ago. And that's why I'm interested now, because like I said, if I were to sit here and you guys don't, I would be like, oh, I'd shut my laptop. However, in little bits, listening to somebody who as a guy and respect, it sort of starts to, whatever, you get interested, to say the least, you get interested. And so, yeah, Albert would have a lot to say about that. That's for sure.
I think it's early. I think the early start time is difficult for Albert because he sent me a couple texts saying that, oftentimes he doesn't get to bed until like 2 or 3 in the morning. So the next time we get Albert on, it'd probably have to be later in the morning. So whenever I sent him a text yesterday, but I think the time is difficult for him, the early morning time.
I'll tell him to watch this, and then he can tell me what he thinks a little bit anyway. But anyway, go ahead, Dave. Sorry.
Well, I'll rush through these because I want to get to the Saturday, for example. So Thursday's Jupiter, Zeus. Friday's Venus, Aphrodite. Saturday, which would be the Sabbath, okay, is Saturn. He's represented as Cronus, and he's the eater of children. what's interesting is that's Saturnalia. Now, when I'm going to tell you this is that the Jewish religion is actually based on Saturnalia. The Orthodox Jews wear a cube on the front of their head, which is interesting because your pineal gland's right here. Okay. And that's another rabbit hole.
We're also
That
getting
would
into
be-
the interesting thing that the FBI doesn't know, that the FBI knows how many cars are stolen each year, but they don't know how many children go missing, right? I mean, because we're talking about connecting the dots, Saturnalia, you're talking about Chronos, the eaters of children, the
Yep.
pedophilia, I mean, the sex trafficking around the planet, its connections with the Vatican, with the Catholic Church, among
And
others,
they're
with the
all
government.
Saturn lovers.
And they're all, yeah, they're
Yeah.
all Saturn worshipers, yeah.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah. And nothing to go against Saturn. Its energy provides what it needs to provide, but those guys look the negative end of everything. And it's nothing against the Jewish people either. They probably don't even realize this.
No, it's a small faction of them, you know, that have hijacked
Yeah,
their identity,
exactly.
their cultural identity.
Exactly. In Islam, they circle around the cube. And
Mhm.
so tell you the cube, so there's at the pole of Saturn, there is that like a hexagon or something like that? Okay.
It is, you're right. I'm familiar with the hexagon. Is it the North Pole?
So it forms
One of the poles has like
a
a
cube.
storm that never ends, but the
Yeah.
other one is the cube. And the hexagon is just a cube, depending upon what perspective you're looking
How
at.
you look at it.
Yep. Mhm.
The Star of David.
Same thing,
is
yeah.
the same thing.
Mhm.
Okay. Star of David actually comes from that. The Star of David is older than the Hebrew religion. It goes back to actually Hinduism and stuff like that. A lot of the Jewish religion, believe it or not, it comes out of Hinduism. So you can, a lot of their customs and stuff like that. It was very polytheistic to start. It wasn't monotheistic originally. And yeah, so there's a cube in Times Square, I want to say, or somewhere in New York. There's a big black cube. It's over where the financial area is. Not to mention, there's a big bull over there as well. There's a you see the woman ride on the beast or whatever. It makes you think of that when you see the bull. But I also think of Taurus. You know, so it's really interesting. I know we only have like what, minute and 51.
Yep, minute and 45 seconds. Yeah.
Do you have anything to say, Bob?
No, I'm good. I just I missed a good little bit of it, but no, I'm good. I'm gonna go read, first Ezekiel when we're done here. Well, not right when we're done, but soon. And but yeah, no, I'm good with it all. Like, I find it very interesting, and I do want to, even if it's just personal, talk with Albert about what you said, because you're the only two people who've ever said those names that I know of, and he digs deep like yourself. So I find it very interesting that different people, I'm completely outside of you guys' realm. Luke, you and Albert come to these very similar conclusions from completely different walks of life and completely different backgrounds, and no connection at all. It's one thing to be influenced by, like we are, by the church. You have, pastors up there telling us, and we're all, and they're all on cue, right? They're all saying the same stuff. I get that. But when you have people digging deep from different parts and coming to the same, close to the same conclusion and questions, I find that fascinating.
Yeah, it makes you pause. It makes you pause and to really think about.
I'm an outsider sitting here, like,
you just stop and you think and reflect.
benefiting from your guys' years and years of deep digging that most people never do. So
we're right about 20 seconds right now, Bob. Yeah, I didn't want you to get cut off mid sentence again.
That's fine.
Kind of over the time frame, because I know I said less than a minute easily 40 seconds ago. So I figure this is a great place to say to be continued, and we'll pick up the conversation sooner than later.
Okay.
I'll be more organized next time.
All right, everyone.